So usually in every campaign, we're running anywhere from like 2 to 4 different audiences in the campaign. And then each campaign, we have content that's kind of specific to that audience. So we're always running lifestyle, product, education. We try to keep it pretty broad because the goal for these campaigns is really to get awareness of the brand. All this content that we post for our clients who are very TikTok Shop focused, we post with TikTok Shop product tags. We're not necessarily doing it to turn all of that into immediate revenue, but we're doing it to put it into our video views campaign so that somebody sees it. Maybe they'll click the product link, maybe we get boosted traffic, but they just will continue to see content show up, the brand show up again and again with that product link. So when they're ready to buy, when they go down the funnel, they know to go to TikTok Shop.
Welcome to the E-com Breakthrough Podcast. Are you ready to unlock the full potential and growth in your business? You've already crossed 7 figures in sales, but the challenge is knowing how to take your business to the next level.
Do you want to know how to maximize GMV Max ad campaigns on TikTok Shop? Welcome to the E-com Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hadley. I scaled my own brand from 0 to 8 figures in sales, and now my mission is to take it to over 9 figures. On my journey to 9 figures, I bring you the unfiltered conversations with the smartest minds in the e-commerce space. Past guests include Ezra Firestone, Kevin King, and Michael E. Gerber, author of The E-Myth. Today, I am excited to welcome a new guest to the show, Abbie Bakov. She is the head of paid media at Abbie, a TikTok Shop agency for Ulta and Sephora beauty brands. She has expertise in advanced paid media strategies and the best ways to leverage ad spend for maximum performance, including GMV Max ad campaigns. Working with Abbie, who has become both a TikTok marketing partner and TikTok Shop partner, making them one of the go-to agencies for brands that want to convert attention into real revenue. She and her team specialize in creating original and trending content, running highly effective TikTok ad campaigns, and building engaged communities that feel authentic and connected. With that introduction, welcome to the show, Abbie.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Abbie, we've had Julia on the show in the past, the kind of founder there of Abbie, and we had a great conversation about all things TikTok Shop and the pillars of creating the content and what works for all of the brands that you guys are working with. However, the overall takeaway she had was like, well, you actually should talk to the people that are in the weeds doing the things. And so she was you are one of the people that Julia is like, hey, you need to talk to Abbie. All things advertising and so much more goes into all of that. So Abbie, you come well recommended. And I'm kind of curious, like, what background did you have before you got into like TikTok Shop?
Good question. I feel like anyone who's landed in TikTok Shop comes from like so many different walks of life. So for me, before I started working at Abbie, I was actually working in legal consulting. I was working with like global law firms on like optimizing their business and spend. So honestly, it's kind of like the same idea, just in a different category. So I started working at Abbie and I kind of translated like all of that knowledge on like optimizing spend, making the most of your money, making it do more for you, taking that into the advertising space. And then as TikTok Shop became more of a thing as an agency, we pivoted and learned very quickly about TikTok Shop and started testing and learning and kind of just being some of the first adopters on GMV Max for our clients. So now we've all kind of grown into just becoming experts and really understanding the space.
Fantastic background. And for those listeners that are listening to this right now, they're probably wondering, well, hey, why do you have somebody that's like the head of paid media and GMV Max? Because with GMV Max, like, it should be set it and forget it, right? You should just like put in your ROI target and that's it. TikTok takes care of everything for you. Is that true or false, Abbie?
I wish it was true. I think it's false, at least for now. And for most brands that are interested in also like, scaling and having a true presence and impact on TikTok, everything requires hands-on, optimizing right now, especially as GMV Max changes and the atmosphere changes. We always get people coming to consults and they're like, I don't get it. I turned on GMV Max, I put the ad spend, I did the ROI, but I'm underspending my budget. The ROI isn't even hitting. What's going on? So there's a lot of optimizing that goes in the back end and strategy to kind of make sure that you can trust GMV Max to at least do its thing.
Yeah, I love that response. So you're telling me that even though GMV Max is this black box type of thing that you just set your ROI target, what you're saying is like, no, there's actual optimization strategies that you can execute to actually boost your performance of GMV Max ad campaigns. And I think that's the mystery that we wanted to like dive into today. And Abbie, I want to hear like, all right, what are you guys doing to actually influence GMV Max ad campaigns where you don't get to choose the placements, you don't get to choose anything? Well, you can choose some things, but you don't get a whole lot of options to
No.
choose compared to like Facebook advertising, things like that. So tell me, how are you currently optimizing GMV Max ad campaigns and what's working today?
Yeah, honestly, it's a loaded question. I feel like we think that there's not a lot we can do. There's so much that goes into it that we can do. I'll start from kind of like focusing on the ad side of things. The one thing that we do for all of our clients that's non-negotiable is running upper funnel campaigns. As an agency that's also really focused on brand building and brand integrity, for us, we're trying to really build the full funnel. We want to run video views. We want to run follower campaigns. We want to take all those learnings and funnel them into how we brief affiliates. We also want to inspire affiliates. Ultimately, the affiliate content is what fuels the campaign. Without it, we can't scale, we can't grow. And there's affiliate content and there's high quality affiliate content. So as a brand, you want to have a presence strong enough to inspire your affiliates to post really good content and to also see like, oh, hey, this brand is posting regularly. They clearly want to scale on TikTok Shop. I want to post for them. I want to be a part of this. So we always run upper funnel campaigns. I know we can't directly, take that audience and put it into GMV Max, but there are learnings that are then funneled through GMV Max that we've seen have a really strong impact. So there's upper funnel campaigns that I think is super important and very commonly kind of overlooked as a campaign that's not worth it, but it totally is worth it. And then the other thing that we also...
So how are you running those? I'm curious. So when you say like top of funnel, those are not GMV Max ad campaigns.
No, so these are like more manual campaigns that are in the ads manager side of the platform. There's video views, there's community interactions, there's reach and frequency. These are campaigns that are truly dedicated to community building and engagement. So here we can get a little bit more focused on, okay, who are we targeting? What's the content we're putting in? This is where we use our branded content that we produce and post for the brands, and we spark it into these campaigns so that we're getting that reach, we're getting those views, we're getting a community. And we're constantly kind of harnessing that and using those learnings to then take into our GMV Max and affiliate strategy. I think it's so important to constantly be like engaging and getting that engagement from your community because TikTok is such a beating heart, like things go viral every day and it can be products that are not even priorities for brands. So it's really great to be able to get out there and also see what your community likes. We look at the comments, we see what they say, we see what they request. And we kind of take that into how we operate our hero product strategy to make sure that what we're actually doing and spending, sample budget on is truly going to translate into something that they want to see.
I find that so interesting. You are the first person I've talked to that's like, yeah, we have an upper funnel strategy that we're leveraging. And I'm really curious, like, what insights are you getting there? And then how does that, parlay over into GMV Max ad campaigns for you? But like, what's interesting is when GMV Max like came out, like, to a lot of our TikTok sellers, they almost said, oh, well, then why do I even need spark codes anymore? But what you just said is like, well, we take our branded content and we're going to spark those. So it's like, all right, now I'm seeing it's like, all right, spark codes are still well and alive for specific use cases. So tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what type of targeting are you setting for your like top of funnel ad campaigns? And then like, what type of insights are you getting that then like inform what you're going to do on GMV Max?
Yeah. So with the upper funnel campaigns, this is when we try to get a little bit more granular with the targeting. I always love broad audiences. I think it's always super important. GMV Max is broad, so we also want to make sure that we're hitting a broader audience. For us, since we're pretty niche in the beauty space, we'll always do like a broad, maybe female audience. We also always lean into beauty and personal care interest. There's video interactions. You can target beauty and style. I mean, there's so many categories in there. There's creator interactions, there's hashtag targeting, interest targeting. We target Sephora interest, trending hashtags. So usually in every campaign, we're running anywhere from like 2 to 4 different audiences in the campaign. And then each campaign, we have content that's kind of specific to that audience. So we're always running lifestyle, product, education. We try to keep it pretty broad because the goal for these campaigns is really to get awareness of the brand. All this content that we post for our clients who are very TikTok Shop focused, we post with TikTok Shop product tags. We're not necessarily doing it to turn all of that into immediate revenue, but we're doing it to put it into our video views campaign so that somebody sees it. Maybe they'll click the product link, maybe we get boosted traffic, but they just will continue to see content show up, the brand show up again and again with that product link. So when they're ready to buy, when they go down the funnel, they know to go to TikTok Shop. So that's kind of like always on and always bringing audiences in and through the funnel. We can't really take anything from the campaign and put into GMV Max, but we do see that sometimes, the content that performs the best in these campaigns, we send it through to affiliates. We say, hey, this is going super viral right now. Like, give it a try to recreate this. Or if there's an affiliate that we really want to support and show some love to, we'll tell them, hey, like, we have a video views campaign, we have a reach and frequency campaign on, like, we'd love to put your content here so we can get some extra awareness and views. So it's kind of an additional incentive for affiliates to continue to post and get that spotlight from the brands. So from there, we don't necessarily make like immediate changes to GMV Max, but it does kind of inform the way that we brief and the way that we kind of show content to affiliates. And it also allows us to test and learn different styles of content. For some brands, we see, talking to the camera, certain visual hook works really well on the organic page. Let's send that over to the affiliates. Or maybe for this brand, it's application or voiceovers. So we kind of see how that translates, and then we get to optimize our briefs and kind of use that content as like inspiration for our affiliates.
Yeah, I love that aspect of like taking some of those creators and even getting them a little bit more love. Here's like one of the hacks that I was sharing, in a presentation actually last week in LA. I was sharing that like one of the best, I think, like highest ROI levers that you can pull with some of your newer affiliates that are beginning to post content for you. If you notice that, hey, they actually have decent videos, but like nothing has really like gone viral for them yet, or nothing's really picked up too much momentum. One of the best things that you can do is actually like go spark their videos so that they do gain some additional views. And then guess what? Because they see more views, guess who's more likely to post a video for you? That person that they're like, oh, there is something about this brand. Like whenever I post about them, I see more views over here than when I talk about some of the other products. So it's kind of this like virtuous cycle where it's like, you're kind of like, they're real views, but like you're artificially spiking their view count in the hopes that like they keep creating more content, and eventually they get better and better and they start picking up momentum on that.
Well, the beauty of TikTok is that, there's a reason why TikTok doesn't give you organic metrics on paid ad campaigns. Everything is so meshed and mixed together. So, even though we're sparking something and it has paid video views or paid likes, paid follows, it still lives on TikTok organically. As something grows in paid, it grows organically. If something necessarily doesn't take off in paid, it's not a strong organic piece of content. We can't boost anything that doesn't already have a little bit of merit and potential. So I think that's such a big difference between TikTok and some of the other platforms, where it's such an organically driven ecosystem where even when you introduce paid media, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything is fake and manufactured because you paid for it. You still do get to see so there's always certain content that's going to outperform something else. It's because of the quality of the content. You could spend the same amount behind it, but one may do better than the other. So, it still does get that organic view, that affiliate account will grow. They'll show up on more For You pages over time. So there is such a ripple effect. And the affiliates do love that. I can't tell you how important it is to keep them engaged and motivated to post for you, especially in today's ecosystem where there's so many brands, there's so much demand, there's so many affiliates. So anything you can do to get them interested and excited, you got to do it.
Yeah, love that. All right, so you've got the top of funnel working. Now, what do you do with that data, and how's that take you to your next step?
Yes, so I'll get into a little bit of how we set up the campaigns in GMV Max. I've seen a lot. I think we've tested every possible combination of setting up campaigns and putting an ROI and budget against it. And what we've seen work for all of our brands so far is kind of creating these 3 pillars that we kind of use as our framework for campaign setup. And it's really built off of our hero product strategy, but we always support all of the products on the shop in our GMV Max campaigns. We don't silo anything out. If it's on the shop, we want it to be in a campaign. So we have 3 main pillars. We have cold start, we have mature, and we have a hero product. So a cold start product, any product that's anywhere from 0 to 1,500 in weekly GMV. A mature product is from $1,500 to $5,000 in weekly GMV. And then a hero product is $5K plus in weekly GMV. So we look at the cold start campaign as kind of like our incubator campaign. And again, there's nuances. If your catalog is really big, maybe you'll have multiple of each campaign. But for the sake of this example, let's just say there's one. We have one cold start campaign. We use this as our incubator. So here we see, ad spend gets separated out throughout all of the products. Over time, you'll notice if something goes viral, maybe there's a product you didn't know was going to take off, but it's having all these product card sales. Maybe there's opportunity to sample this product out. So it just lets you get those additional learnings and incremental revenue apart from your core hero product strategy. So over time in this hero product campaign, you'll notice 1 to 2 products maybe getting a lot of ad spend. Maybe it's hitting close to that 1,500 threshold, but the ROI isn't super efficient. That's kind of your signal of, this product can sustain itself with a good amount of ad spend, but we need to put it out. We need to have more control. Let's try to control that ROI and now shift into more of an efficiency mindset. So that cold start period is when we're leaning into that content volume. And then once a product shifts into maturity, that's when we start leaning on that content quality, because now we want to scale ROI. We want more efficiency. So We take that product out, we put it in its own campaign, we give it a higher ROI, we start leaning into our top affiliates to get that stronger content coming through, and then it can hit that maturity. So maturity is when we can really leverage this product as almost like our anchor GMV. We use this product to scale ROI, to consistently grow. We have our affiliates on retainer, consistently posting for them. And hero products we always put out by themselves. They're in their own campaign. We scale the ad spend, we scale the ROI as we kind of go back into our cold start campaign, pull some products out, take them into maturity, and so on and so forth. So we kind of have this like ongoing flywheel of products that are incubating in cold start, mature, grow into maturity, and then from there they scale into hero, and we kind of maintain them as hero products through our high top performing affiliates. We scale that ROI as we then start bringing other products into the mix. So for the sake of the example, every mature products are in this one campaign, cold start are in this one campaign, and then mature hero products kind of sit by themselves. But, there's nuances. Sometimes we'll group like 2-3 mature products in one campaign together and then kind of grow from there. But I think what's important to know is, GMV Max, it is automated. There is AI behind it. So it's looking at things only from a numeric standpoint. So I always tell clients, eliminate all bias, eliminate what you think about a product. Just because your lip gloss may sell really well on your D2C, it may not even, it may not be your top performer on TikTok Shop. So you got to follow where the money is going. You got to follow where the sales are going and set up your campaigns that way.
Yeah, fantastic advice. What about what are your ROI targets right out of the gate? Do you have any rules of thumb for those?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, we are niched in beauty. So I think there are, different categories can scale a lot faster. But for the beauty space, I like to usually start between a 1 and a 1.5 ROI. I like to just create the baseline of what's the maximum amount I can spend and at what ROI? Because, I always see brands, they'll put a 2.5 day one and they just want to get to that 2 or a 2+ or maybe even a 5. But then you just hold the campaign back. You never really get to find your foundation. You never really get to get those initial learnings of what's my baseline? What am I scaling from? What products can scale? So, we start off with building our hero product strategy. And then based off of the products that we're sampling, we kind of develop that framework of campaigns. So maybe we'll start in a cold start. Maybe we have 2 cold start campaigns. I like to start them off at around maybe 1.2 to 1.5. And then within the first week or 2, you can kind of start seeing oh, okay, maybe we're hitting it. Maybe we're not. If we're not, how can we pull products apart? Maybe we lower the ROI for the first period of time for the initial few weeks or even few months. We always tell clients, especially now, profitability is not in an instant. There is a period of time where you're operating at a negative profitability. And in that period of time, you got to be comfortable with a little bit of maybe you have a negative ROI at sometimes, maybe we're not spending the full budget at the beginning. I think traditional media buyers are always eager for budget, but this is actually sometimes a scenario where we're hold your budget, we'll spend it later. Right now, we're going to focus on finding efficiency and discovering our baseline. And then once we consistently can hit an ROI, what I like to kind of look at is the ratio of budget to ROI. So usually I'll set the budget a little bit higher than I want to spend, the ROI a little bit higher than I want to hit, and anticipate that the campaign is going to spend anywhere from 60 to 80% of the budget. Once the campaign can spend 80% plus, or if it's spending in full, that's your indicator of, okay, now we can successfully scale the ROI and not take a hit on how we're spending. So we can truly grow your GMV rather than, okay, we boosted the ROI, but now we're not spending again. What's happening? You kind of have to go with what the numbers are showing you. If you're spending in full, boost the ROI. If you're not spending in full, maybe reevaluate, maybe adjust your campaign setup. That's why when we get to break, products out into their own campaign, that's when you can have more control over the ROI. Maybe your hero product has a low budget, but a much higher ROI because that you have that efficiency with that product. Maybe your cold start is a little bit lower of an ROI and you kind of have an assortment of campaigns happening all at once. You got your anchor GMV, you've got your incubator campaign, and you're kind of setting the ROI targets based off of what's truly happening in that campaign with those products.
I love that. I love how you're raising the ROI while also making sure it's already spending what it needs to be spending in the lower ROI. So fantastic advice. Now, help me understand that connection then from the top of funnel to these GMV Max ad campaigns. What are you learning from the top of funnel that's bleeding over to GMV Max?
So I think it's one of those things where it doesn't necessarily translate into an ROI you can hold on to, but it has such a halo across TikTok where, we've noticed even when we've sparked our branded content and it's gone viral, we've had our own branded content be top performers in GMV Max, which is rare. Usually it's the affiliate. So, there's always that possibility of when you're sparking content that has TikTok shop tags, you're getting increased traffic to your TikTok shop. You're getting increased awareness that you're on TikTok shop. Our creative account managers are trained and they are experts in TikTok shop just as much as we are. So we post content that's dedicated to TikTok shop while also keeping the brand's integrity, the brand voice in mind. So we'll post about exclusive bundles, we'll post about promotions. So we'll still keep that aesthetic and kind of like the beautiful content vibe that the brand wants to see. Because sometimes brands want a little bit of that brand equity and control when it comes to TikTok shop. They get a little bit nervous sometimes with sampling, having a lot of these affiliates promoting the brand. They still want to have a little bit of control over the conversation. So that's when we leverage our upper funnel campaigns and use our content to kind of boost education and awareness on our products and also prioritize TikTok shop. So we see increased traffic, we see viral moments. We also see a lot more affiliates come through the door. Oh, like we heard so much about your brand. We keep seeing you on my For You page. Like, can I get a sample? All that conversation, all that buzz, it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's intentional. It's built. It's curated. It's something that we're always looking for. And then again, like I mentioned before, it's always a great incentive to let your affiliates know, like, you're doing great in GMV Max. We see you. We want to see more of your content pop off. Like, we're going to put you in our video views campaign. And then, maybe their revenue starts to go up. Their ROI starts to go up in turn. So we do see a lot of that like bigger halo effect. And then we also, we run follower campaigns. So we're building our brand community that become loyal brand followers. And they're always in platform. And where are they going to go when they want to buy? They're going to go to TikTok shop because we're constantly kind of reiterating that message in a way that's brand forward and resonates with them.
That makes so much more sense now. This is like, yeah, the top of funnel isn't just like for the ads and like the consumer. Yes, it will hit the consumer, but like you hit the nail on the head. Like this is almost where like your creator activation campaigns begin there, right? Mm-hmm. Because like they see your content everywhere. It's funny you say that because like I literally, before we jumped on this call, was on a call with another creator, one of our top creators, and was asking them like, hey, what's your feedback about the brand? Do you like it? What would you like to see changed, etc.? And what they had said is, hey, I enjoy working with more mature brands that already have a good presence and are known in the market. Because I know that if I post a piece of content, like typically what happens is it will sit there for a day and then all of a sudden it just like starts moving and picking up views. And whereas like some of the newer brands I haven't really heard of, that I don't see a lot of, like none of those videos really do well. And so I think it's like, if you want some of the better creators, you got to make noise. And so I love that aspect of like, start by sparking your own branded content so people become aware of your brand, because that's what creators want. And I think like it's getting so much harder on TikTok shop compared to the 2024 TikTok shop, which was like money was raining from the cloud. Yeah. Now it's like, it's pulling teeth to recruit a top creator. Like you're paying like UGC rates. In addition to that, like less people are going viral. And so you've got to manufacture these like creators. I still think it's one of the best arbitrages of this decade is like building your creator community. While it's like, I don't think it's ever going to be cheaper than it is today. Right?
No, we tell brand, you said it perfectly. These creators, they are everything. Like they fuel your existence and your growth on TikTok at this point. And, we always tell brands like, this is not the time to roll over and wait for a viral moment. The days of like, I post and go viral are very much over. We get a lot of content of like, oh, but it's TikTok. Let's just go viral and, we'll hit 6 figures, 7 figures. We'll be great. I'm like, no. We gotta manufacture a little bit of that conversation, leverage every possible lever on TikTok so that, we are flooding the feed with conversation. We have some brands that are very cold start. Some brands we've launched like net new on TikTok from the ground up. And we've spent the first 3 months just doing upper funnel campaigns. We didn't even touch GMV Max yet because I was like, if affiliates don't know who you are, they're not going to post for you. GMV Max is going to have nothing. And then you're going to just be you're starting from a negative place. So instead, let's create buzz. Let's get conversation. It's so worth it to invest into your brand. Like it's your brand presence, it's your brand equity on TikTok. It's worth the investment, even if you can't see the immediate ROI. So spending that time, building your community, building that presence is how you get the top affiliates. It's how you have those viral moments. You manufacture those conversations. You make sure you're everywhere on TikTok as much as you can. So, the brands that are winning, the brands that we hear about every single day, they're investing so much time, energy, money, resources into building this community and building their presence. Like, it on the outside, it seems like, oh, they went viral, but on the back end, there's a lot that you have to really make sure you're being intentional about.
Yeah, and it's a different business model. Most e-commerce brands that get onto TikTok Shop, they're used to either one of the following. On Shopify, they run
Mm.
really good creative and ads from Meta and it goes to Shopify, right? It's just an arbitrage media play. Okay, so that's fine. That's a business model. But on Amazon, it's the opposite where it's like, all right, you are basically arbitraging keywords. So you're looking at keyword opportunities. You want your product to be found there. And then you're arbitraging those keyword like PPC campaigns. And
Mm.
that's it. Nowhere in either of those two business models do you have to deal with human beings, right? Other than customer support.
So
Where TikTok Shop is the exact opposite. Like you talked about, you have to manufacture these like creators and virality moments and like content at scale. And guess what? You're dealing with human beings to make that happen. And I think
yeah.
that's where most of these brands like they struggle to wrap their head around it. And actually that's why they fail, is because like they're using the same principles that had them have success on Amazon or Shopify. And it's like, I'm sorry, it's a totally different skill set over here on TikTok Shop.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I hate being the bearer of bad news. Sometimes I'm like, I'm so sorry to tell you, we can't copy paste your meta strategy. It's not going to work. It's such a different beast. It's so relationship focused. And this is another super important thing with your affiliate community. Maintaining that momentum is so, so, so important. When you start getting that flywheel turning and you have your affiliates posting and you're getting that GMV and you're getting that traction, you have to curate and really hone in on that environment of your affiliate community. You got to train them. You got to incentivize them. You have to have some sort of, whether it's Discord, Lark, anything, to make sure that you're talking to them every day. As you said, these are humans. They want relationship. They want connection. They want to feel like they are a part of your brand. They take it so seriously. They choose brands that they resonate with for a reason. So they want the brand to give that energy back to them now, right? So we've seen a few instances where, the brand kind of picks up the gas pedal a little bit. They're like, oh, like we got it, everything's happening, we don't really got to do anything else. And then some of that momentum with the affiliates dies down. And I can't tell you how difficult it is to re-engage these affiliates once they kind of are already looking elsewhere and posting for other brands, or they're not looking in your Discord, or they're not really engaged with you. It's so much harder to re-engage affiliates than to get them in for the first time and keep them engaged and active. And when it comes to GMV Max and ROI, it's almost one-to-one. Like, if you're not scaling your ROI, and if your GMV is not growing month over month, I can guarantee 9 times out of 10, it's something in your affiliate community, something in your sample strategy isn't necessarily, clicking. Something's missing. There's all these levers that go in to ultimately scaling revenue. There's GMV Max is kind of like the last step, in my opinion. I think, the upper funnel campaigns, the way you set up the campaigns are so important. But then there's also like everything that you're doing on the back end. What's your hero product strategy? What's your sample strategy? What's your retainer budget, your incentive budget? How are you retaining affiliates? How are you educating them on the brand? What do your briefs look like? All of these different factors that go in for GMV Max to really be able to scale that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really well said. Like GMV Max is kind of like the last step in this entire equation. So I've got a lot of podcast episodes where I have shared kind of our TikTok creator outreach process, how we recruit affiliates. And then I also have a podcast where I did like the 5 like creator engines and like phases that we walk through for our creators to take them from an unactivated creator all the way to becoming a brand evangelist. And it's all just about relationships. So I love you. You hit the nail on the head there, Abbie. Now I want to bring us back to GMV Max ads, because like there's honestly not a lot of content out there about optimizing GMV Max ad campaigns. So yeah. I'm curious, like have you found any other cool like wins, tactics, hacks that have been working for you in GMV Max? And I'll share a couple of ours as well with you, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. There's definitely been a lot of different things that we've learned. Again, I want to like preface with these are in the beauty category. Scaling looks a little bit different here sometimes than other categories. But I think, one of the biggest unlocks that we've had recently is kind of figuring out like the dance between when to creative boost something and when to not. I think, and this is even for myself, historically, I was like, oh, if the creative's doing well, GMV Max is going to put spend behind it. But I actually kind of realized that sometimes GMV Max doesn't. It doesn't always see a good piece of content, doesn't always scale the right piece of content. So sometimes you have to get in there, get your hands dirty, look through the content and actually see what has opportunity, look at the CTR, look if there's been initial conversions on really low ad spend. Sometimes there's like really inflated ROI and you're like, wait a minute, is there opportunity here? This creative got $10 of ad spend, but it has 3 purchases. Is there opportunity here to potentially boost this and scale it up? That's also another thing that you can tell affiliates you're doing. Hey, like we're looking through the ads, we're trying to boost your content more than GMV Max is. So that's actually a great unlock to be able to look through that and see opportunities that GMV Max is potentially missing.
On that, yes, you can boost content. And I agree. Like there's oftentimes you would think it's going to like promote the best content. Oftentimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So the best, like one of the best metrics that we have discovered thus far is if you scroll over into like the whole analytics and like performance side of it, like on the far right-hand columns of all of that data on GMV Max, you will find what the 2-second hook rate or engagement rate is. Mm-hmm. Right? Anything with a 50% engagement rate after two seconds, those are the ones that we're boosting and seeing like tremendous results from those.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's been like the metric that we've been using to say, hey, how do we make this more of like a system? It's like anything with the 50% engagement rate after 2 seconds, like really high content, even if it didn't go viral.
I love that. Yeah. Those are one of the moments where you're like, let's create some virality, like let's boost 100%. This conversation up. Absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome.
All right. What else are you doing there in GMV Max ads?
I think the other big thing for us with scaling has really been like discovering that transition between a mature and hero product where a product can truly live on its own. Over the last few months, we've kind of taken Q4's momentum and used it to continue scaling in Q1. I think we expected, all our clients like, it's okay, we're going to do it. I'm like, no, let's use the momentum and let's see if we can take that further. We had so many products, so much momentum in Q4, products growing out of mature into hero. Yes, because of, Black Friday, but also is there opportunity there to keep that going? So after Q4, when we started putting products out into their own campaigns, kind of having control over that creative boost, giving it a higher ROI, like challenging GMV Max to hit a little bit higher of an ROI than we think we could get, that's where I leverage the hero products to kind of take the campaigns a little bit further. Your cold start products, there's only so much you can do, but your hero products are really the ones that you can use to anchor your GMV and grow the ROI. So I really challenged my team and myself this year to push the ROI further, try to get GMV Max doing a little bit more than it already can. Because I noticed, sometimes, there's 2 ends of the coin. There's either like sometimes I see brands that are setting their ROI targets unrealistically too high. Then other times where you kind of get into like a comfortable place that we're spending a good amount, we're getting a good ROI. I don't want to potentially hurt the spend and have it, underspend if we're trying to get a larger ROI. So I really kind of challenged the campaign to see like how far can we go and scale the spend. So let's boost the ROI on a hero product. Let's creative boost simultaneously so it's more incentivized to throw spend across more creative. So that's really been working for us as well.
Yeah, love it. Those are great insights. Yeah, for us, like, have you seen that product cards perform pretty well for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually, I've noticed, when we have viral moments or big moments in our upper funnel campaigns, that translates a lot into product card sales. We always get a high volume of sales from product cards. And the only time that I saw a brand not was when we weren't running upper funnel campaigns. So that's kind of when I was like, okay, there's definitely a halo here. There's so much impact. Think of like the traditional marketing funnel. It's essentially the same. You're putting them into the funnel and video views. They're seeing this content again and again and again. And all they have to see to convert is a product card, So it's always great to see those sales come through. And I think we always see product card do really well.
You touched on the aspect of like the halo effect, right? The halo effect, not only from the top of funnel ad campaigns, but like we all talk about like the TikTok halo effect onto other sales channels, your own website, etc. You briefly mentioned this earlier about like, hey, maybe you're going to run at a loss for a while. I'm curious, and I know you're probably not on the finance side of it all over here, but like, are brands profitably scaling on TikTok Shop? Because I feel like the jury's still out on that. I hear a lot of people that are, hey, if I can just break even at best on TikTok Shop, like I'm chalking that up as a win because I know I'm getting whatever I do on TikTok, I'll get like a third over on Amazon and maybe, a quarter of that falls onto my website as well. Like, What are you seeing, especially with the brands that you work with? Is this kind of like a loss leader type strategy because it's more top of funnel, just brand awareness? Like, What's your perspective on that, Abbie?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for us, I mean, we're working with, prestige beauty brands where not being profitable isn't really an option. So that's why our strategy is very intentional, very curated. Even when we're running upper funnel campaigns, it's with a purpose. And, the ratio of spend, you don't need to spend too much on upper funnel, but it always does make an impact. And we also leverage great, attribution platforms. We work really well with Fosfa to measure that halo impact because it is very much there, especially on Amazon. I think we've seen when it comes to profitability, we do forecast out with our clients, a year and a half out to map out, here's what we're doing. Here's everything that we're going to sample. Here's our focus. And, we usually try to get our clients profitable between 6 to 9 months. And then from there, we scale profitably. We've gotten clients to profitability and we've grown them from there. But I definitely understand that, why the jury's still out. I think a lot of brands, when if you're not keeping track and you don't have that forecast, it's hard to know when you're going to be profitable. The space can be a little bit volatile if you're not sampling intentionally, if you're not harnessing, leveraging your affiliate community and scaling, it's hard to hit that point of profitability, especially, when we notice brands, I don't, it's a big investment, 100%. It's such a big investment. You gotta be patient. You gotta put the money up front. We always tell brands like this, they ask for the call run approach and we're just like, it doesn't exist. You just got to dive in. When we notice that a brand has a foot in, foot out the door, as soon as the sales kind of decrease, they're done, or they only want to sample, a really, really minimal amount. At that point, you're kind of just like, you're always going to see very minimal growth. And at that point, profitability goes very far away because, that initial 3 months of cold start is so, so, so important. That's where you build your whole foundation with your product strategy, your optimization for your shop, your affiliate strategy, your community. That first cold start period, that whole period of not being profitable is honestly what is the most important period. Those are when you get all those learnings. And if you lose that momentum, like I was saying earlier, it's really hard to get that back. So for those, brands who are 1 foot in, 1 foot out, they try shop today, they tried it next week, maybe not tomorrow. It's so hard for them to kind of get that traction once affiliates see that they're not really committed. So I think profitability is very much possible and is something that we achieve for our brands, but it requires the investment, it requires the patience. And once the flywheel starts churning, you got to kind of stay in it.
Yeah, you got to be committed and go.
You got to be committed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I say is also think of it like any other channel. This is a big revenue stream for your business. So think of it like anything else. You got to put the upfront investment in. Just because it's TikTok, I think people have this notion of it's TikTok, it'll go viral. But we think of it as any other e-com channel. It's just Amazon. It's like anything else that requires that investment, the inventory, and kind of just the understanding of okay, here's what we have to put in order to build a long-term stream of revenue.
Yeah. Really good perspective on that. You mentioned a tool that was measuring the halo effect. What is that? Spell that out.
FOSPHA.
Interesting. I have not heard of that tool.
They were actually one of the first measurement platforms to accurately attribute TikTok Shop Halo onto Amazon and GMV Max Halo onto Amazon. A lot of the traditional platforms didn't really have that feature yet. They were one of the first and they have an amazing team. And we always tell our clients to use an attribution platform like this because the halo off of TikTok is so much, it's so vast and so there that's why that initial point of profitability, it's okay, maybe we're not profitable on TikTok, but what are your Amazon sales looking like? What are your D2C sales looking like? How have you seen that impact go throughout your whole channel? Because ultimately, Amazon Prime is a hard thing to compete with. We gain all this awareness. We have all this traction from TikTok, but there are just those loyal Amazon Prime customers that want to shop and buy on Amazon. That's why TikTok has started to try to compete with a lot of that over the last few months. So that halo between TikTok Shop and Amazon is very much there. And another thing I want to note is when you are looking at all of your channels and you want to build your TikTok Shop, be so mindful that you're not accidentally competing with yourself, especially during big promotional moments like Black Friday. We've had instances where brands have had really desirable discounts on Amazon, a little bit better on their D2C, not quite on their TikTok Shop, where they're competing with them across channels and the user for the journey, the customer journey, they're kind of like, whoa, now I don't know what the better deal is. I don't think I want to even shop right now. They get decision fatigue. So it's so important to make sure that you're truly aligning your strategy across the business. We are a TikTok agency, but we love to know what's going on in every channel. It's so important to not silo anything out and to make sure that you're really like working in unison. And then you can really see like that big impact across everything.
So you would recommend, like, if you're going to run a flash sale on TikTok Shop, you should run that across your other channels as well?
Actually, the opposite. I think if you're going to run a flash sale on TikTok Shop, make sure TikTok Shop is the best place to buy in that moment.
Okay.
Otherwise, what's stopping me from I'll just use my Amazon Prime free shipping, 2-day shipping, or, oh, I have a membership, I have an account on the D2C, so I'll get points, so you kind of have to keep that in mind when you're building your TikTok Shop strategy, to make sure that we're not just dumping inventory that nobody wants, because that happens and, nothing's going to happen there. And if we are discounting, if we are running sales, make sure that it's desirable and that TikTok Shop is exclusively the only place to get that sale. If we're discount averse, maybe we can launch exclusive bundles that are only on TikTok Shop and not on your D2C, not on Amazon. So there has to be some sort of value add, something different, something exclusive to TikTok Shop to really get your customers going there. It's such a different stream and channel where, your audience that shops on your D2C can remain that audience. This is an entirely new one, but we don't want to potentially compete. We don't want to send them elsewhere when, we want TikTok Shop to be desirable for them.
Yeah, totally agree. Love that sentiment. Abbie, as we wrap things up here, is there anything else that you haven't touched on that you feel like our audience needs to know?
I feel like we covered everything.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, I love to leave the audience with 3 actionable takeaways from every episode. Here are the 3 takeaways that I noted. You let me know if I'm missing something. Action item number 1, start with your top of funnel advertising. So this is something that needs to be an action item even for myself. This should be a component of, if you're doing the cold start method, this needs to be step 1 of your cold start method. And if you're not actively doing this, it's a great thing to add on today, because it actually has a massive halo effect, as you alluded to, in multiple areas, not just on sales, but it has a halo effect onto the number of creators that you will be able to recruit for your brand, because you just continue to appear in their feed and they feel like you are everywhere. Mm-hmm. And so make sure you start with that top of funnel content. And then, yes, you will pick up extra product card sales on your GMV Max ad campaigns. That's a value add, but not like the reason as to why you do it. So love that action item. That's action item number 1. Action item number 2 is, with the budgets that you set and being able to like scale your different like GMV Max ad campaigns, make sure before you raise that ROI target that you are spending 80% or more, right? Or you're maxing out that budget every single day. I think that's a really good like rule of thumb for people to know, like, when do I scale up my ROI targets versus not? And then my third and final action item here is to break down your products into different ad campaigns based on where they're at in their product lifecycle on TikTok Shop. Just because something's your hero SKU on D2C doesn't mean it's your hero SKU yet on TikTok Shop. And so being able to walk those through, like a cold start, mature, and then a hero campaign, I think is really important. So Abbie, do you feel like I missed anything there?
No, I think that's everything. The one thing that I will note is with your cold start strategy, to make sure that your shop is somewhat consolidated and not like copy paste of your D2C. Make sure your TikTok shop is a little bit smaller. So your cold start campaign is a little bit smaller and you're incubating, a little bit of a smaller assortment of products, and you can always add more as you go. But you don't want to start like super fast.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you want to put a lot of energy behind a few things.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Abbie, final 3 questions for you. Number 1, what's been the most influential book that you've read and why?
It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. He has a really amazing perspective, and he links like science and biology to how we operate, and how to like make sure that you're manifesting and making things actually come true for your life, and how you can start operating in a way to make to like have all of your kind of like desires and things that you want to happen. Super impactful. And I learned a lot and implemented it in my life and saw a lot of changes. So I love it. I recommend it to everyone.
Yeah. Joe Dispenza, great person to learn from.
Yes.
Question number 2, what's your favorite AI tool that you've been using, and how have you been using it?
I feel like everyone is on this right now, but Claude. I mean, I've Claude AI for literally everything. It's organized my entire like work life, my emails, my task list, organizing with my team, and kind of setting up myself for success every day. It's integrated across everything for my work. So it's made my life so much easier.
Yeah, definitely. That's the hot topic right now.
It is. And for a good reason.
For sure. All right. Final question. Who is somebody that you admire the most in the e-com space that other people should be following, and why?
Honestly, it's going to sound a little cheesy, but our CEO, Julia, I mean, you met with her. She is remarkable and is always learning more about the space and has grown this agency into something just so incredible and amazing. And she's always speaking in different engagements and learning so much. And we're, building the business and pivoting into things that work. And she's definitely worth following. Her LinkedIn is so active and she's posting a lot of tips and tricks on creative, paid media, affiliate strategy, TikTok shop strategy on LinkedIn, and it has a culmination of everything that we always talk about in the day-to-day. So that's like the best place to go for anything TikTok shop.
Definitely. Julia's wicked smart. So
yes.
Love that. Well, Abbie, if people want to reach out to you, follow you, where's the best place to do so?
They can add me on LinkedIn. My name's Abigail Bekov on LinkedIn, or Abbie Bekov. But you can follow me there. You can DM me, message me. We're super active on LinkedIn, all of us at the agency. So you can find any of us there.
Excellent. Well, Abbie, thanks again for your time today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Visit ecombreakthrough.com for more information. If you've enjoyed today's episode, the best way you can show your appreciation is by clicking the subscribe button and quickly leaving a review. See you again next time.